In today's video, we're going to go over some of the most overpowered PvP talents added to WoW's history so far. These talents are all powerful on their own and don't take into consideration any buffs from conduits, legendaries, tier sets, and more. And at number 10, we have Counterstrike Totem. This is a totem available for shamans that causes 100% of all direct damage done within 20 yards of the totem to reflect back to the person who attacked. If this totem was placed within a large teamfight, like Isle of Conquest when fighting at mid or docks for example, it'd be nearly impossible to see it, and just cause everyone to die as they're essentially doing 100% of the damage back to themselves. It's possible to create a weak ores that alerts you when the totem is dropped, and a lot of players would just use that to see it. But for those players who don't have the weak aura or didn't use it for this, having to pay attention to when the shaman dropped this ability and kill it before it could do anything could be difficult. Now, this ability didn't reduce any of the damage the shaman took like Touch of Karma did for monks, so it was possible to still die while it was active, but assuming that didn't happen, it usually did more damage than the shaman did themselves. And at number 9, we have Shadowy Duel. This is an ability for rogues that essentially made the rogue and their targets disappear into another realm for 5 seconds. During this time, the rogue and their target could not be seen by or see anyone else. The reason why this ability is as strong as it is because it could be used on a healer to prevent them from healing a low health target. Or if you're just playing a capture point battleground like Arathi Basin, it can be used to distract a flag defender while a fellow stealthy grabs the flag, the defender unable to do anything about it, not even knowing the flag is being captured till it's too late. It's also undispellable, and the person the rogue locked into the phase can't use a trinket to get out of it, but very powerful cooldowns like Divine Shield or Ice Block can be used to counter this, but that's a heavy trade-off, and gives the rogue even more value because a very powerful cooldown was basically wasted. It was also a great way to troll other players because it was possible to use Shadowy Duel on a tank in Altaric Valley and have the boss go around and just wipe the raid. And at number 8, we have Grounding Totem. This is another totem for shamans that redirects all harmful spells cast on nearby party or raid members to the totem itself, but doesn't work with AoE spells. The reason why this ability is so strong is because if placed at the right time, it can eat an entire Convoke cast from a Balance Druid, Chaos Bolts from Warlocks, Pyroblast from Mages, and all the other spells as long as it's not an AoE, giving this totem extremely strong potential if used correctly. This also can be used back to back, assuming the other shamans in the group are using it too, so when one expires, the other shaman can drop theirs, and you can have a very long time of no spells hitting anyone, unless someone goes through the hassle of purposely targeting the totem and then killing it with a single target ability. The Grounding Totem would see the best usage when dropped in a giant fight to hide amongst mass players, and make it difficult to notice, pick out, and target, but even when dropped into a solo situation, this could very easily be the difference between dying or getting a kill. And at number 7, we have Thorns. This is a temporary buff for druids that when used on themselves or a friendly target, deals a ton of nature damage back to the melee attackers and causes the melee attackers to have a 50% reduced movement speed for 4 seconds. In Legion, this ability was over the top broken because the visual effect it had around the player who had Thorns active on them was so small it wasn't very noticeable until it was too late, making melee attackers without add-ons kill themselves with their own attacks. In Shadowlands, this was changed to be much more noticeable, but still has the same stats as it did before. Thorns is a great ability to place on someone such as a healer being ganked by a rogue, for example, which would allow the healer to get some time away with their movement speed reduction applied to the attacker and force them to stop attacking, allowing for an easy getaway. It was also used quite a lot in open world content as well with war mode enabled, seeing as mobs would die significantly faster while questing. And at number 6, we have Ultimate Radiance. This is a talent for Disc Priests that made their Powered Radiance instant casts and increased the healing done by 150%. Powered Radiance is one of the first learned abilities for Disc Priests and is used often in PvE, but it has a 2-second cast time. It's very strong and spreads their atonement around quite well, but at a reduced duration since it heals 5 people in total. And making it an instant cast with the 150% increase to healing by using the talent is just too strong for a Disc Priest to pass up, since they can use it to burst heal while also being able to heal while moving, which not a lot of classes can do without a cooldown, such as Ancestral Grace for shamans, and just gives them more options to heal with the instant cast, which is one of the most important things for PvP casting. The ability to heal without having to use a cast time is pretty big in PvP, so being able to convert one of your lesser used PvP heals into a free instant burst heal is so good, it's easily the most picked PvP talent for Disc Priests. And with their atonement being spread around more with the spell, it can also increase the healing done overall too, since they can follow up with a penance and heal everyone that has atonement on them, even if atonement healing is pretty minor in PvP. Being able to spread it out to your whole team instantly is just too good to pass up. And at number 5, we have Ultimate Sacrifice. This is a talent for Holy Paladins that reworked Blessing of Sacrifice a bit. See, Blessing of Sacrifice originally reduced their friendly target's damage taken by 30%, but in turn, the paladin would suffer all the damage that was prevented during the time over a dot effect. It lasted for 12 seconds, or until the damage was so strong that the paladin would fall below 20% of their health. What Ultimate Sacrifice did is cause the target to transfer all the damage they received as a dot, and also no longer canceled if the paladin reached 20% health, essentially turning the ability into a Divine Shield where the person was cast on. While speaking of Divine Shield, the ability could be then used by the paladin to block out the damage, meaning they could prevent a teammate from dying while also ignoring all the damage they got over the dot for 6 seconds. It was mostly used in emergency situations and could very easily turn the tide of an entire fight into the paladin's favor, seeing as the prevention of someone dying was pretty strong by itself, and being able to do that once every 2 minutes is even stronger. Since the ability couldn't be dispelled or removed in any other fashion, the only thing the enemy could do is reset if it was an arena, or run away if it was a regular battleground. And at number 4, we have Shadow Rift. This is a talent added 9.1 for Warlocks that conjures a large dark circle around an area and transfers all players inside of it to the Warlock's demonic circle. It may not sound like much on paper, but one hidden effect of this is it places the player in the direction the Warlock was facing when the Warlock casts a demonic circle, meaning that Warlocks can place demonic circle off the edge of a cliff, use it on a player, and force the player to fly off the edge of that cliff, instantly killing them. This is very popular in Eye of the Storm near the cliff's edge by the flag, or Arathi Basin overlooking woodworks, things like that. Along with trapping players inside some spots in certain battlegrounds like the trees of Warsong Gulch, and making them commit suicide as the only way to exit, or spots in World PvP, most popular in the Maw at the cliff's edge near the spawn. And being able to displace any player who was inside the ring, and a bit around the ring as well, since the hitbox is actually larger than it shows on screen, gave this ability a lot more value than players think that it does, trolling aspects aside. Usable for stacking enemies together to allow for easy AoE, or redirect enemy players away from their healers, or the opposite. And at number 3, we have Turbo Fists. This is a talent for Windwalker monks, which buffs Fist of Fury from a single target ability with some AoE to a full AoE damage and defensive ability. It now causes Fist of Fury to do full damage to everyone hit by it instead of full damage to one target. It also reduces the movement speed of everyone hit by Fist of Fury by 90%, while also making you parry all attacks while Fist of Fury is being channeled, making Fist of Fury create a massive snare while also allowing the monk to apply pressure to the enemies, punishing melees who get out of position, or those who use their abilities at the wrong times. While being able to parry all attacks during the channel makes this talent required for fighting against other melee specs. This talent can not only be a lifesaver and a game winner, but it can also be used in very specific situations, like parrying the hunt from demon hunters and all melee bursts if used at the right time too. And not only is it really strong because of that, but it prevents the escape of other melee specs unless they're willing to pop an entire cooldown for it. Fist of Fury being one of the spec's main damaging abilities, which it uses very often, this PvP talent is not only amazing in PvP as an all-around ability, but it's also amazing in world content, a tad bit of a broken talent, although only in melee counter situations. And at number 2, we have Starburst. Not to be confused with the candy, Starburst is an insane talent that was added in 9.1 for Balanced Druid that causes Starfall to have these astral orbs fall around the map. When a friendly player runs over them, they pick it up, causing it to float around them for 15 seconds, and when it connects with an enemy, it launches the enemy into the air at quite a high length, gives 15 astral power to the druid, and hits them with a higher rate of astral damage. Now, these stars do not need to be picked up, as an enemy simply running into one of these star landmines will cause it to explode. The star's explosive capability has no cap on the amount of people one of these stars can hit, allowing these stars, landmine, or orbiting bomb to do insane AoE damage as long as the enemies are stacked close enough together, which is usually the case in teamfights. Now, this talent isn't really used in arenas since Balanced Druids don't use Starfall in there for the most part, and since this is more of a RBG or casual BG talent, you're guaranteed to see at least one Balanced Druid on your team, or the enemy team, using this as it just offers so much damage. Along with the real utility behind this talent being the launching effect it does to enemies because they cannot escape for the short amount of time that they're launched, which just allows for a quick kill after they land. And with War Mode being an option, it's possible to also have this while leveling once it's unlocked, as Starfall is a regular ability that is used by Balanced Druids in PvE combat as well, so having 100% uptime of this talent in both PvP and PvE is pretty good. And with Balanced Druids being one of the most popular spellcasters in the game, this gave them even more power than they quite honestly didn't need, seeing as they already had very strong and amazing mobility to begin with. And at number 1, we have Arcaneosphere. Added in patch 9.1 as well, this is a talent for arcane mages that makes them create a giant ball of arcane energy that's basically just Arcane Orb but on PI, and annihilates anything it touches. The unique part about this talent is that it goes through all objects and all enemies it hits, with the orb that it shoots having a huge radius as well. With all other spells in the game that's not a targeted cast, this spell will either go over, with, or under the terrain, but Arcaneosphere goes directly through everything instead, allowing for potentially insane damage and one-shots if lined up correctly. If the mage used the burst combo of Radiant Spark, Touch of the Magi, then Arcane Missiles to get 4 stacks of Radiant Spark, dropped Rune of Power and then cast Arcaneosphere, It can do anywhere from 20 to 60k damage depending on how geared the mage is, which was enough damage to nearly one-shot a lot of players in PvP. The downside of this talent was the very long cast time at 4 seconds, which is one of the longer cast times in the game's history. The longer you charge the cast, the more damage the orb will do. However, if you start casting Arcaneosphere, then immediately stop, it will still provide the launching effect and some damage anyways, making it great to use as a fast way to knock enemies away from you in an emergency situation if you needed, which gave arcane mages just that much more utility, as the only other launching effect that arcane mages could get is through another talent called Supernova, which isn't as popular of a pick because they lose out an arcane orb. And Supernova only launches enemies into the air, not away from them. And the sheer amount of damage Arcaneosphere can do even without any buffs, along with its knockback utility, makes it one of the most overpowered PvP talents that's been added to the game so far, as it can very easily kill a player or an entire team in one single cast. Alright, and that's the video. Are there any other super overpowered talents from the game's history you may have missed? Because there's probably a lot of them. If so, I'd love to hear about them down in the comments, as well as ideas for future videos just like this one.